The call came on a Thursday morning while I was sanding a walnut table in my workshop near Willie Street in Madison. Detective Reynolds' voice was careful, professional, but there was something in her tone that made my hand freeze mid-stroke. "Mrs. Morrison, we need you to come down to the station. It's about your daughter." I set down my sandpaper, confused. The scent of fresh-cut wood that usually calmed me suddenly felt suffocating. "Detective, I think there's been a mistake. I only have one child, my son Luke. I don't have a daughter." The silence that stretched across the line felt like it lasted forever. "Mrs. Morrison, please. This really can't wait. I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from." Before we continue, let me say that some details in this narrative have been changed for privacy. But the heart of this story, the lesson it teaches, is absolutely real. 20 minutes later, I sat in a gray conference room at the Madison Police Department, my hands still dusty with wood shavings I'd forgotten to brush off. I'm 56 years old, and I've spent the last 30 years working with my hands building furniture piece by piece. It's honest work. It's all I know. Detective Lisa Reynolds sat across from me, a woman in her mid-40s with short brown hair and tired eyes that had probably seen too much. She slid a photograph across the table. What I saw made the room tilt sideways. The young woman in the photo was in her early 20s with long dark hair and serious gray eyes. But it was her face that stopped my heart. It was Luke's face. The same straight nose, the same determined jawline. Even the small cleft in her chin matched perfectly. "Her name is Lucy Parker," Detective Reynolds said quietly. 22 years old, reported missing 3 days ago. My throat went dry. "I don't understand. We found your name in her apartment, Mrs. Morrison, along with adoption records." She paused, watching my reaction. "Records indicate she was born October 15th, 2002, twin birth. The other child listed as Luke Morrison." The words hit me like a physical blow. October 15th, 2002, the day my world had shattered into pieces. I remembered it all. The 18 hours of labor at St. Mary's Hospital, the pain, the exhaustion. Brian, my ex-husband, holding my hand, his face pale with worry. The nurse bringing out my baby boy, healthy and screaming. Luke. And then the doctor's voice, gentle but final. "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Morrison. Your daughter." Her heart stopped. "We did everything we could." I remembered the feeling of my own heart breaking, the emptiness. Brian holding me while I sobbed. Him whispering, "We still have Luke. We'll focus on our son." But now, 22 years, I heard myself say. My voice sounded far away. "I had a daughter for 22 years and never knew." Detective Reynolds' expression softened with something that looked like pity. According to hospital records, a baby girl was transferred to an adoption agency 3 days after birth, adopted by James and Linda Parker of Omaha, Nebraska. She paused. "Mrs. Morrison, did you sign adoption papers?" "No, never. Brian told me." I couldn't finish. The walls felt like they were closing in. "We believe your husband, your ex-husband, signed the papers while you were recovering from complications after delivery. The hospital records show you were unconscious for approximately 48 hours due to severe blood loss." The pieces fell into place sharp and ugly. I had been so weak after the birth, so drugged. When I finally woke up, Brian was there with Luke in his arms, telling me our daughter was gone. I'd been too devastated, too physically broken to ask questions. He'd lied to me. For 22 years, Brian Morrison had lied to me. "Where is she?" The words came out as a whisper. "Where's Lucy?" Detective Reynolds' jaw tightened. "That's why we need your help." Lucy's apartment near the UW-Madison campus showed signs of a struggle. Her phone and laptop are missing. We found a journal documenting her search for her biological family. She opened a file and pulled out photocopies of handwritten pages. Lucy's handwriting was neat, careful. "Found birth certificate. Twin birth, 2 babies, not 1. Brother's name, Luke Morrison. Where is he? Where is my mother? Why was I given away?" My eyes blurred with tears. "The last entry," Reynolds continued, "mentions meeting someone named Brian Sheffield 3 days ago. Mrs. Morrison, Brian Sheffield is the name your ex-husband is currently using. He's married to a woman named Diana Harrington. They live here in Madison." The name hit me like ice water. Brian's here in Madison. Has been for the past 15 years. He runs Harrington Financial Advisory with his wife. They've been investigated for fraud multiple times, but we've never had enough evidence to prosecute. She leaned forward. Mrs. Morrison, we believe Lucy confronted her biological father, and shortly after she disappeared. We need to know everything you can tell us about Brian Morrison. My hands shook so badly I could barely dial Luke's number. He answered on the second ring, his voice bright and young and completely unaware that his world was about to shatter. Hey, Mom, what's up? Luke, honey, my voice cracked. I need you to come to the police station. Right now. The brightness vanished. Police station, Mom, what's wrong? Are you okay? I'm fine, just please come. Downtown. Madison Police Department. I'm on my way. 20 minutes felt like 20 hours. I sat in that gray room staring at Lucy's photo, trying to reconcile this stranger's face with the daughter I'd mourned for 22 years. Detective Reynolds brought me water I couldn't drink and asked questions I could barely answer. When Luke burst through the door, his backpack still slung over one shoulder, his face tight with worry, I saw it again, the resemblance. How had I never noticed? How had I spent 22 years with my son and never wondered why his face looked incomplete somehow, like half of a matched set? Mom! Luke rushed to me, his hands on my shoulders. What happened? Detective Reynolds stood. Luke Morrison. Yes. Who are you? What's going on? She held up the photograph. Do you recognize this person? Luke took it, and I watched my son's face transform. Confusion first, then shock so profound he had to grab the back of a chair to steady himself. He touched his own cheek with his free hand as if checking whether he was real. His voice broke. This is like looking in a mirror. Who is this? I stood up, put my hand on his arm. Her name is Lucy Parker. She's 22 years old. I took a breath. She's your twin sister. Twin sister. Luke stared at the photo, unable to look away. I don't have a sister. You always said, I know what I said. The words tasted like ash. Your father told me our daughter died at birth. He lied, Luke. He gave Lucy up for adoption without my knowledge or consent. Luke's face went pale. Dad did what he... Detective Reynolds took over her voice, steady and professional. Your father, Brian Morrison, currently using the name Brian Sheffield, placed your sister for adoption when you were both 3 days old. He told your mother the baby had died. Lucy was raised by James and Linda Parker in Nebraska. But why would he... Luke couldn't finish. Money, I said bitterly. Your father was drowning in debt 22 years ago. His financial consulting business was failing. 2 babies meant double the expenses he couldn't afford. Reynolds pulled out more documents. Hospital records show your father received $50,000 from the adoption agency, officially listed as assistance fees. Essentially, he sold your sister. Luke's hand clenched into a fist. The photo crumpled slightly in his grip. There's more, Reynolds said gently. Lucy went missing 3 days ago. Her apartment showed signs of a struggle, phone and laptop gone. But we found her journal. She opened it to a marked page. This entry is from 3 weeks ago. She read, found him. Brian Morrison, my biological father, living in Madison under the name Brian Sheffield, married to Diana Harrington. They run some kind of financial consulting business. Tomorrow I'm going to meet him. I need to understand why he gave me away. Why he let Mom believe I was dead. Where is she? Luke's voice was hollow. Where's my sister? We don't know, but we believe something went wrong when she confronted your father. Reynolds pulled out another document. We also found research from a private investigator Lucy hired, Carol Jensen. She'd been digging into Brian and Diana's business practices. 8 confirmed victims over 15 years. Wealthy, vulnerable people, widows, widowers, divorcees. Classic confidence operation. My father's a con artist, Luke said flatly, and possibly worse. Reynolds' expression darkened. 6 years ago, Lucy's adoptive father, James Parker, died in a car accident in Nebraska, officially ruled as losing control on wet roads. But when we looked deeper, she showed us a police report. His brake lines had been cut. James had been asking questions about Lucy's birth, trying to help her find her biological parents. He'd contacted your father 2 weeks before the accident. I felt sick. You think Brian killed him? Brian was in San Francisco at the time, solid alibi. But his associate, a man named Danny Price, was in Nebraska with no alibi at all. She closed the file. We can't prove anything, but the timing is concerning. Luke stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. So what are we doing? Why are we sitting here if Dad has Lucy, if he's done something to her? We're building a case, Reynolds interrupted. But I need you both to stay out of this investigation. Let us handle it. I stood too, facing her. Detective Reynolds, I lost my daughter 22 years ago because I trusted the wrong person. I'm not going to lose another day sitting around doing nothing. Mrs. Morrison, my daughter is out there, somewhere, and I'm going to find her. The house on Johnson Street felt different when Luke and I returned. Smaller somehow, haunted by all the years of lies that had filled it. This was the house where I'd raised Luke alone after Brian left, where I'd held my 3-month-old son and promised him I'd be enough even though half our family was gone, where I'd built a life from sawdust and stubborn determination. I'd thought I knew every corner of this house, every memory, every truth. I'd been wrong. Luke sat at the kitchen table, his laptop open, fingers flying across the keyboard with a speed and purpose I'd rarely seen. My son, the computer science major, putting his skills to use in ways his professors probably never intended. Mom, you need to see this. I pulled up a chair beside him. The screen showed hospital records, official documents that should have been private but apparently weren't if you knew where to look. St. Mary's Hospital, October 15th, 2002, Luke read. Twin birth, both babies healthy. Baby A male, 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Baby B female, 6 pounds, 11 ounces. Both cleared for discharge within 72 hours. Both healthy, I whispered. The lie felt like a fresh wound. Luke scrolled down. Here, transfer order dated October 18th, 2002. Baby B transferred to Bright Futures Adoption Agency per father's request and consent. Signature Brian Morrison. He turned to me, his eyes dark with anger. Your signature isn't anywhere on these documents, Mom. I was unconscious, I said. My voice sounded dead even to my own ears. I remember after the delivery something went wrong. Hemorrhaging. They said I almost died. I pressed my hands to my face. When I woke up 2 days later, Brian was there. He told me our daughter was gone. I was so weak, so devastated. I never thought to question it. Luke's jaw clenched. He turned back to the laptop. I'm finding more. Financial records looks like Dad's consulting business was about to go bankrupt in 2002. He owed over $200,000 to various creditors. He pulled up another document. And here, October 20th, 2002, a deposit of $50,000 into his business account. Source Bright Futures Adoption Agency. The number made me want to vomit. $50,000. That's what my daughter was worth to Brian. The price he put on his own child. He sold Lucy because he needed money, Luke said, his voice shaking. And he let you believe she was dead rather than admit what he'd done. I stood up, walked to the window. Outside, the October evening was turning dark. Somewhere in this city, this same city where I'd lived for 30 years, my daughter might be alive. Or she might be. No, I wouldn't let myself think that way. Luke, what else can you find about Brian? About Diana? About what they're doing now? My son's fingers flew across the keyboard again. Brian Morrison, currently Brian Sheffield, 58 years old, married to Diana Harrington in 2009. No children. He paused. That we know of. What about their business? Harrington Financial Advisory. Officially legitimate. They manage investments for about 40 clients, mostly older individuals. High net worth. He frowned at the screen. But look at this 8 complaints filed with the State Financial Board over the past 15 years. All from elderly clients who claim they were defrauded. None of the complaints went anywhere. Insufficient evidence. Statute of limitations. Witnesses recanting. They're good at covering their tracks, I said bitterly. There's someone else we should talk to. Luke pulled up a website. Carol Jensen, the private investigator Lucy hired. Her office is on State Street. The next morning, we sat in Carol Jensen's cramped office above a coffee shop on State Street. Carol herself was a thin woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and gray hair cut short. She'd been a Madison police officer for 20 years before going private, and it showed in the way she carried herself, alert, assessing missing nothing. I've been expecting someone from Lucy's family, she said, pouring coffee into chipped mugs. I just didn't know there was family to expect. Lucy told me her biological parents were unknown. Her biological mother was unknown to her, I corrected gently. Because her father lied. Carol nodded grimly. I've been investigating Brian Morrison Sheffield for 3 months at Lucy's request. Want to know what I found? Everything, Luke said. Carol opened a thick file. Brian Morrison started his financial consulting business in 1998. By 2002, he was bankrupt. Then suddenly he's flush with cash again. Starts over. By 2005, he's changed his name to Brian Sheffield, moved to a different city, still Wisconsin, but away from people who knew him. In 2008, he meets Diana Harrington. She pulled out a photo of a blonde woman in her early 50s, elegantly dressed. Diana Elizabeth Harrington, MBA from Northwestern. Lost her financial advisor license in 2004 due to fraud charges, got her clients into risky investments, took kickbacks. She and Brian were perfect for each other. They target vulnerable people, I guessed. Exactly. Widows, widowers, divorcees, people with money and loneliness. Diana works the emotional angle. She's charming, sympathetic, relatable. She joins grief support groups, charity organizations, finds marks. Then she introduces them to Brian, who handles their money. And then, Luke leaned forward. And then their money disappears into offshore accounts. Slowly, carefully. By the time the victims realize something's wrong, the trail is cold. 8 confirmed victims in 15 years. Estimated total damages, $4.2 million. The number hung in the air like poison. Why haven't they been arrested? I asked. Same reason most sophisticated con artists don't get caught. Their victims are embarrassed, ashamed. They trusted these people. Some of them don't even report it. The ones who do well? Carol shrugged. Brian and Diana are careful. They document everything, make it look legitimate. By the time anyone questions it, they've covered their tracks. She pulled out another file, this one thinner. Then there's James Parker. My breath caught. Lucy's adoptive father. James died 6 years ago in a car accident. Single vehicle lost control on a wet road in Nebraska, but I dug deeper. Carol showed us the accident report. Brake lines cut. Professional job made to look like natural wear. James was asking questions about Lucy's birth around that time. She'd turned 16 and wanted to know about her biological family. James was helping her research. He contacted Brian, I said, knowing it was true. 2 weeks before the accident, asked for a meeting. Brian declined, said it would be too painful, too complicated. 2 weeks later, James is dead. Brian was in San Francisco for a conference rock-solid alibi. But Danny Price, his enforcer. She showed us a photo of a large, rough-looking man. Danny was in Nebraska. No alibi. Luke's hands clenched into fists. They killed Lucy's father, her adoptive father. I can't prove it, Carol said. But I'd bet my license on it. And when Lucy came to Madison 3 weeks ago, determined to meet Brian to get answers, I told her it was dangerous. I warned her. Her voice cracked slightly. She was so brave. So determined. She said she'd been lied to her whole life and deserved the truth. What happened 3 weeks ago? I asked. Carol pulled out her notes. Lucy met Brian for the first time at a coffee shop on State Street. I had her wear a wire, but Brian was careful the conversation stayed vague. He admitted to being her father, said the adoption was complicated, refused to give details. Lucy pushed for another meeting. He agreed. When, 4 days ago, the day before she disappeared. Carol's expression darkened. She was supposed to check in with me after. She never did. When I couldn't reach her, I filed a missing person report. That's when Detective Reynolds took over. Do you have a recording of the second meeting? Luke asked. No. Lucy went in without a wire that time. Said she wanted it to feel more natural, more honest. She thought if Brian felt safe, he'd tell her the truth. Carol closed her eyes briefly. I should have insisted. I should have... This isn't your fault, I interrupted. Brian's the one responsible. Brian and Diana. Carol opened her eyes, and they were hard. There's one more thing you should know. Brian and Diana have a new target. His name is Howard Campbell. 62 years old, widowed last year. Wife died of cancer. He has $850,000 in savings and life insurance. Diana's been working him for 2 months through a grief support group. They're close to finalizing his investment portfolio. Another victim, Luke said quietly. Unless we stop them. I stood up. Carol, will you help us? Not just to find Lucy, but to stop Brian and Diana from hurting anyone else. Carol Jensen stood too, extending her hand. "Mrs. Morrison, I've been waiting for someone to ask me that question. Let's take these bastards down." That night, Luke couldn't sleep. I found him at 2 a.m, sitting at the kitchen table in the dark, his hand pressed against his chest. His face was pale in the dim light from the street lamp outside. "Luke," I sat down beside him. "What's wrong?" "I feel something." He looked at me and his eyes were wide, almost frightened. "Mom, this is going to sound crazy, but I feel like someone's trying to reach me. Like there's pressure here." He pressed his sternum. "Not pain exactly, just presence." I reached for his hand. It was trembling. "Tell me what you're feeling," I said gently. "It's been getting stronger since we saw Lucy's picture. At first I thought it was just stress or my imagination, but..." He closed his eyes. "It's cold. Wherever she is, it's cold. And dark. I can feel water not around her, but nearby. Running water. Pipes, maybe." The hair on my arm stood up. "Luke, do you remember what you learned in that psychology class you took last year about twin studies?" He opened his eyes. "Twin telepathy. You think that's real?" "I don't know, but I think we should find out." The next morning, we sat in Dr. Elizabeth Morgan's office at UW-Madison. Dr. Morgan was a psychologist who specialized in twin studies. I'd found her through a desperate internet search at 3 a.m. She was in her early 40s with kind eyes and an air of professional curiosity. She listened carefully as Luke described what he'd been feeling. "The connection between identical twins is well documented," she said when he finished. "Though not well understood, twins who share identical DNA develop neural patterns that can be remarkably similar. There's a theory about quantum entanglement at the cellular level, the idea that particles that were once connected remain connected in ways we don't fully comprehend regardless of distance." "So it's possible," I asked, "that Luke could be sensing Lucy's situation?" "Not only possible, I'd say likely, especially given the circumstances. When one twin is experiencing extreme stress or danger, the other often reports physical sensations. Pressure in the chest is one of the most common. Some twins report actual visual or sensory impressions." Luke leaned forward. "I see things. Not clearly, but impressions. Dark space, concrete walls, those pipes I mentioned. It sounds insane, but I feel like she's underground somewhere." Dr. Morgan made notes. "That's not insane at all. What you're describing is consistent with documented cases of twin connection during crisis situations. Your brain is receiving signals you can't consciously interpret, so it's translating them into sensory impressions." "Can we use this?" I asked. "To find her?" "Maybe. Luke, I want you to try something. Close your eyes. Take slow, deep breaths. Don't try to force anything. Just let yourself be open to whatever you're feeling." Luke did as she asked. I watched my son's face relax, then tense again. His breathing changed. "What do you sense?" Dr. Morgan asked softly. "Cold. Definitely underground. I hear traffic. Distant but steady, like a highway." His eyes moved beneath closed lids. "There's a smell. Chemical. Like oil or paint." "Good. What else?" "A window. Small. High up. Natural light during the day, but not much. And..." His face contorted. "Fear. She's scared, but she's also angry. She's not giving up." When he opened his eyes, there were tears on his cheeks. Dr. Morgan handed him tissues. "That was remarkable, Luke. You have a strong connection with your sister. That's going to help you find her." Back at the house, we mapped out what Luke had sensed. Trish, my best friend for 30 years and the owner of 5 pubs across Wisconsin, had come over to help. She spread maps of Madison across the dining table, her reading glasses perched on her nose. "Underground space near a highway," she muttered. "Small high window. Chemical smells. That sounds like an industrial area." Luke pulled up property records on his laptop. Brian and Diana own 3 properties in Madison besides their house. One is a commercial building downtown where their office is. One is a rental property on the west side. And one, he zoomed in on a map, is a warehouse on East Washington Avenue. East Washington Avenue ran parallel to Highway 51, heavy traffic day and night. "It has a basement," Luke said, clicking through county records. "Listed as storage space, registered under a shell company, Sheffield Holdings, LLC. Trish and I looked at each other. "When do we go?" she asked. "Tonight," I said. "After dark." But first we needed a plan, because breaking into a warehouse to rescue Lucy, if she was even there, could alert Brian and Diana, could make them move her, or worse. We needed to get close to them, needed to make them think they were winning while we gathered evidence. "Let me do it," Trish said. We were back at her pub, Murphy's Place, though it had been Sullivan's since she took over after her husband Robert's death 5 years ago. The back room was private secure, perfect for planning. Luke frowned. "Think about it. Diana targets wealthy, lonely widows and widowers. I fit the profile perfectly." Trish gestured to herself. "I'm 58. My husband died 5 years ago. I own 5 successful pubs across Wisconsin. I'm worth probably $1.5 million at this point. I'm exactly the kind of mark they look for." "It's dangerous," I said. "So is breaking into warehouses." Trish's expression was fierce. "Stella, you're my best friend. Have been since we were 26 years old. You stood by me when Robert was sick. You held my hand at his funeral. You think I'm going to sit this out when your daughter needs help?" I felt tears prick my eyes. "Trish, besides," she said with a slight smile, "I've always wanted to go undercover. Robert and I used to watch detective shows together. He'd have loved this." Luke pulled up information on his laptop. "There's a grief support group meeting at First Methodist Church tomorrow morning. According to Carol's files, Diana attends regularly. She uses the name Sarah Mitchell." "Then that's where I'll be," Trish said. "Patricia Anderson, recent widow, looking for support and guidance." The next morning I sat in my car across from First Methodist Church, watching through binoculars as people filtered into the meeting. Trish looked perfect, expensive, but understated clothes, just enough jewelry to suggest wealth without flaunting it. Her posture screamed both vulnerability and dignity. She'd be wearing a wire. Luke had rigged it up that morning, a tiny microphone hidden in a pendant necklace. I had an earbud in, listening. The support group started. I heard Trish introduce herself, her voice trembling just slightly. "My name is Patricia Anderson. My husband Robert passed away 5 years ago. Cancer. Some days it still feels like yesterday." The grief in her voice was real. That part wasn't acting. She mentioned recent business changes, selling some of her pub locations, consolidating. "I have more money than I really know what to do with. It makes me feel guilty, like I'm moving on when Robert's still—" "I understand completely." A new voice, smooth, warm, practiced. Through my binoculars, I watched a blonde woman approach Trish during the coffee break. Diana Harrington, though she'd introduce herself as Sarah Mitchell. "I'm Sarah," Diana said, touching Trish's arm with false sympathy. "I lost my husband 2 years ago. That emptiness you described, I know it so well." I watched them talk, watched Diana work her magic. By the end of the meeting, they'd exchanged phone numbers. "She's good," Trish said later, back in her car, pulling off the wire. I almost believed her myself. "That's what makes her dangerous," I said. My phone buzzed. A text from Luke found something. "Meet me at home." When I got home, Luke's face was grave. "Mom, I hacked into Carol Jensen's cloud storage. She gave me her email password before, said we might need access to her files." "What did you find?" "Everything. Carol documented 8 confirmed victims over 15 years. The pattern's always the same. Diana identifies targets through grief groups or charity events. Wealthy, lonely people. Brian invests their money into accounts that slowly funnel offshore. By the time the victims realize something's wrong, the money's gone. He showed me file after file. Names, dates, amounts stolen. It was methodical. Evil. "But look at this." Luke pulled up a different file. 7 years ago, there was a business partner, guy named Thomas Wright. He was Brian's partner at the consulting firm. Thomas started getting suspicious about where the money was going, threatened to go to the police. What happened? Car accident. 2 weeks before he was scheduled to testify. Brake failure. Sound familiar? My blood ran cold. Just like James Parker. Exactly like James Parker. Mom, Brian doesn't just steal from people. He kills them when they get in his way. I thought about Lucy, my daughter who'd confronted Brian about his lies, who had evidence against him. We were running out of time. "The warehouse," I said. "We go tonight." At 11 p.m., Trish, Luke, and I parked a block away from the warehouse on East Washington Avenue. The area was deserted, abandoned buildings, broken streetlights, weeds growing through cracked pavement. The warehouse loomed ahead, dark and silent. But I noticed something. A shiny new padlock on the side door gleaming against the rusted metal. "Someone's been here recently," Trish whispered. We approached carefully. I had my lock-picking tool skills learned from 30 years of working with old furniture, antique locks, restoration projects. The lock clicked open. Inside the main floor was debris and old equipment. We used flashlights sweeping the darkness. Luke moved like he was being pulled by an invisible thread. Downstairs. He whispered, his hand on his chest. She's down there. I know it. We found the basement entrance behind old shelving. Another new lock, this one more substantial. I was reaching for my tools when headlights swept across the building exterior. Down! Trish hissed, pulling us behind machinery. A man entered, tall, muscular, carrying a flashlight. He checked the main floor methodically, then went to the basement door. Checked the lock. Spoke into a radio. Danny checking in. Everything secure. A voice crackled back. Good. Keep it that way. We're almost done with the Campbell deal. Another 48 hours. Danny did another sweep and left. We waited 10 minutes after his car drove away before moving. We can't break that lock, I said, fighting every instinct. If we do, they'll know someone's been here. They'll move Lucy. Or... I couldn't finish. Or worse, Trish completed quietly. Luke's face showed anguish. But she's right there, right below us. I gripped his shoulder. I know, honey, but if we tip our hand now, we lose our chance. We need to make Brian and Diana reveal where Lucy is. Force them to. How? Luke demanded. I looked at Trish. The gala. Diana's charity gala at Monona Terrace. It's in 2 days, right? Tuesday night, Trish confirmed. She invited me this afternoon. Said it would be a good opportunity to meet Brian properly. Meet people who could help me navigate my grief through wise financial planning. 200 guests. I said, a plan forming. All of Madison's wealthy and influential. Witnesses, cameras. No way for them to escape or hide. What are you thinking? Luke asked. I'm thinking we crash their party. We expose them in front of everyone, and we make them tell us where Lucy is. Trish smiled grimly. Now that sounds like a plan. As we drove away from the warehouse, Luke suddenly gasped, his hand flying to his chest. Luke, I swerved, slightly alarmed. She knows, he whispered, wonder in his voice. Mom, Lucy knows we're looking for her. She knows we're coming. I reached over, squeezed his hand. 48 hours, honey. 48 hours and we're bringing your sister home. In the rearview mirror, the warehouse disappeared into the darkness. But somewhere in that building, in that basement, my daughter was waiting. I'd lost her once through lies and deception. I wouldn't lose her again. Whatever it took, whoever I had to face, I was going to save Lucy. Saturday morning arrived with cold rain and gray skies that matched my mood perfectly. 45 hours until the gala. 45 hours to build our case, gather evidence, and prepare to face Brian for the first time in 22 years. The thought made my hands shake as I poured coffee in Trish's kitchen. You're sure about this? I asked her for the 10th time. Trish was dressed for her date, with Diana lunch at a cafe on State Street. She looked elegant in a cream-colored sweater and pearl earrings that had belonged to her mother. Expensive, but understated. Perfect. Stella, honey, I've got this. She adjusted the wire Luke had hidden in her necklace. I've been dealing with drunk college kids and demanding customers for 30 years. I can handle one con artist. Luke looked up from his laptop at Trish's kitchen table where he'd set up our temporary command center. The wire's working perfectly. We'll hear everything, and I've got the recorder running so we'll have evidence. I watched Trish check her reflection one last time. My best friend. The woman who'd held my hand through Luke's childhood, through my divorce, through every hard moment of the last 30 years, now putting herself in danger for my daughter. Be careful, I said quietly. She squeezed my hand. Always am. I sat in my car half a block from the cafe, earbuds and listening. Luke was in Trish's car behind me, monitoring the recording equipment. Through the wire, I heard Trish enter the cafe, the bell above the door chiming, her greeting the hostess. Patricia over here, Diana's voice. Warm, welcoming, completely fake if you knew what to listen for. Sarah, it's so good to see you. Trish's voice had just the right amount of grateful warmth. They ordered coffee, made small talk about the weather, the cafe's excellent scones. Then Diana steered the conversation exactly where we knew she would. How are you doing, really doing? Diana's voice dripped with false sympathy. These grief group meetings help, but they're only 1 hour a week. The other 167 hours can be so difficult. They can, Trish agreed. I keep myself busy with work, but coming home to an empty house every night. I understand completely. After Richard died, I was lost. Completely lost. That's when I met my current husband, Brian. He helped me see that life goes on, that I could rebuild. You remarried. That's wonderful. It is, though it took time. And it helped that Brian understood financial matters. After Richard passed, I had no idea what to do with the insurance money, the investments. I was so overwhelmed. Here it comes, I thought. Brian's a financial advisor, Diana continued. He specializes in helping people in transition, widows, widowers, divorcees, people who suddenly find themselves with assets to manage and no idea where to start. That sounds exactly like what I need, Trish said, perfect hesitation in her voice. Though I have to admit I'm nervous about trusting anyone with Robert's money. It feels like all I have left of him. Of course it does. And you should be careful. That's smart. Diana paused. Would you feel comfortable meeting Brian? No pressure, no commitments, just a conversation. He could at least point you in the right direction even if you decide not to work with him. I suppose that couldn't hurt. Wonderful. We're hosting a small charity gala Tuesday evening. Very casual, very friendly. It would be a perfect opportunity to meet Brian and some other people who've been through similar experiences. Would you be interested? A gala sounds lovely, but I don't know if I'm ready for... Oh, it's nothing formal. Just a gathering to raise money for the James Parker Memorial Scholarship Fund. James was a client of ours who passed away a few years ago. Such a wonderful man. We created this fund in his honor. I felt bile rise in my throat. James Parker Lucy's adoptive father, the man Brian probably had killed. They'd named their charity scam after him. That's beautiful, Trish said, and I could hear the controlled anger beneath her pleasant tone. Honoring someone's memory that way. We believe in giving back. So will you come Tuesday evening, Monona Terrace, 7 p.m.? I'd be delighted. After lunch, Diana and Trish parted with air kisses and promises to see each other Tuesday. Trish walked calmly to her car, drove 2 blocks, then pulled over and ripped out the earbuds. That woman, she hissed when I got in beside her, is a stone-cold psychopath. Naming their charity after a man they murdered. Who does that? Someone who thinks they're untouchable, Luke said from the back seat. Someone who's gotten away with it for so long they think they're invincible. Well, they're about to learn differently. Trish's hands gripped the steering wheel. Did you get everything? Luke held up his phone. Every word. Crystal clear. Good, because Tuesday night we're taking them down. Sunday morning I couldn't sit still. 36 hours until the gala. 36 hours until we confronted Brian and Diana, publicly forced them to reveal Lucy's location. But what if something went wrong? What if they didn't break? What if they had a way out? We hadn't anticipated I needed insurance. I needed more evidence. Mom, where are you going? Luke found me putting on my jacket. Lucy's apartment. I need to search it again. The police already went through it. I know, but I'm her mother. Maybe I'll see something they missed. I grabbed my car keys. Are you coming? Luke was already reaching for his backpack. Lucy's apartment was a small studio near the UW-Madison campus. The police had released it from their investigation, and the landlord had given me permission to go through her things. He'd been kind about it, said Lucy had always paid rent on time, never caused trouble with studying to be a nurse. My daughter wanted to help people. The thought made my throat tight as I unlocked the door. Inside, everything was neat, organized. Lucy clearly took after me in that way, everything in its place. Nursing textbooks stacked on the desk. A calendar with class schedules and work shifts at the campus bookstore marked in different colors. Photos on her nightstand. I picked up the largest photo. A family portrait, Lucy with an older couple, probably in their mid-60s. James and Linda Parker. They looked kind, loving. Lucy was smiling between them, maybe 16 or 17 in the photo. They gave her a good life, I whispered. Mom, look at this. Luke was examining the bookshelf. These nursing textbooks, some of them are really advanced. Trauma care, emergency medicine. She wasn't just studying to be a nurse. She wanted to work in emergency rooms, save lives. I ran my fingers along the spines of the books, trying to feel close to this daughter I'd never known. What was she like? Did she laugh like me? Did she have my stubborn streak? My tendency to hum while working, we have to find her. I said. I need to know her, Luke. I need to hear her voice, know her dreams, understand who she became. We will. Luke squeezed my shoulder. Let's keep looking. We searched systematically. Luke checked Digital Spaces, her desktop computer, looking for cloud storage backup accounts. I searched the physical space, looking for anything the police might have missed. In the closet, I found more photos. Lucy as a child, maybe 5 years old, hugging a stuffed bear. Lucy as a teenager in a soccer uniform. Lucy at high school graduation, beaming with pride. 22 years of life I'd missed. I was about to close the closet when I noticed the stuffed bear on her bed. The same one from the childhood photo. Worn, faded, clearly well-loved. Something made me pick it up. It was heavier than it should be, and when I squeezed it, I felt something hard inside. Luke. He looked up from the computer. I showed him the bear. There was a small opening in the back seam, carefully sewn shut with slightly different colored thread. Not the original stitching. My hands shook as I carefully opened the seam. Inside, wrapped in plastic, was a micro SD card. "Oh my God," Luke breathed. "Mom, she hid evidence." Back at Trish's pub in the private back room, we inserted the SD card into Luke's laptop. My heart hammered so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. The card contained 4 files, 3 audio recordings and 1 text document. Luke clicked on the first audio file. The date stamp showed it was from 3 weeks ago. Street noise came first. Then Lucy's voice, young, nervous, but determined. "Thank you for agreeing to meet me." Brian's voice made me freeze. I hadn't heard it in 22 years, but I would have recognized it anywhere. Older, but still him. "You said you had information about my family." "Yes, about your daughter. About me." "My name is Lucy Parker. I was born October 15th, 2002 at St. Mary's Hospital in Madison. You're my biological father." Silence. Long enough that I wondered if the recording had stopped. I don't know what to say. Do you remember that day? Do you remember my mother, Stella Morrison? Of course I remember. Then you remember telling her that I died, that your daughter died. Lucy's voice hardened. But I didn't die, did I? You gave me away. Sold me, actually. $50,000 to Bright Futures Adoption Agency. Lucy, it's complicated. I was young, I was in debt. You lied to my mother. You let her mourn me for 22 years. You let her believe I was dead. I thought it was the right decision at the time. The right decision for who? Not for me. Not for my mother. Not for my brother. You know about Luke? Of course I know about Luke. He's my twin brother, the one you kept. Tell me why him and not me. Why was he worth keeping? Another long silence. I can't explain it in a way that will make sense to you. Try. I could only afford 1 child. I chose. I'm not proud of it, but I chose. And now that I've found you, what are you going to do? I want to help you, Lucy. I want to make amends. I don't want your money. I want the truth. I want you to tell my mother what you did. I want to meet my brother. I want my family. That's not possible. Why not? Because it would hurt too many people. My wife doesn't know. Luke doesn't know. Stella thinks you're dead. Opening all of that up again would be cruel. Cruel, you think hiding the truth is kinder than telling it. Sometimes, yes. Well, I don't agree. I'm going to find my mother. I'm going to tell her I'm alive. And you can't stop me. The recording ended. I was crying. I didn't even remember when the tears had started. That's my daughter, I whispered. She was fighting for us, for our family. Luke's jaw was clenched. What a bastard. I chose, like we were cars he was picking between. Trish handed me tissues. There are 2 more recordings. Are you ready? I nodded. The second recording was from 4 days ago. Lucy's voice was more confident this time. You wanted to meet again. I'm listening. Brian sounded different, more desperate. I've been thinking about what you said, about family, about the truth. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's time. Time for what? Time to tell Stella. Time to introduce you to Luke. I've made mistakes, Lucy. Terrible mistakes, but I want to fix them. Why now? Because you're afraid I'll expose you anyway. No, because you're my daughter and I've missed 22 years of your life. I don't want to miss any more. It sounded almost genuine. Almost. What about Diana, your wife? Will she be okay with this? Diana doesn't need to know everything. This is about you and me. About our family. Our family? You mean Stella and Luke? Yes. The family you destroyed when you gave me away. I know what I did. But maybe we can rebuild. Maybe... I know about Harrington Financial Advisory. Silence. I don't know what you mean. Yes, you do. I hired a private investigator. I know about your victims. 8 people over 15 years. $4.2 million stolen. Lucy, that's not... I know about Howard Campbell. I know Diana's working him right now through a grief support group. I know how your operation works. You're wrong. You're misunderstanding. I'm not. And I'm not the only one who knows. I've documented everything. If anything happens to me, it all goes to the police. Lucy, please. You're making a mistake. No, the mistake was meeting you a second time. I thought maybe you'd changed. Maybe you felt genuine remorse. But you're just trying to protect yourself. That's not true. Isn't it? Tell me the truth, Brian. Did you kill James Parker? The question hung in the air like a knife. What? No, of course not. He died 6 years ago, 2 weeks after contacting you about me. Brake lines cut. That was an accident. Was it? Or was it your associate Danny Price, the same man you use for your dirty work? Lucy, you need to stop this. You're in over your head. These accusations aren't accusations, they're facts. And I'm going to the police. About the fraud, about James Parker, about all of it. If you do that, you'll destroy lives. Not just mine. Your mother's, Luke's. Is that what you want? I want justice. For James. For your victims. For my mother who mourned me for 22 years. Lucy, please, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. You have 24 hours to turn yourself in. Tell the truth. All of it. Or I go to the police myself. The recording ended. Oh, Lucy, I whispered. You were so brave. Luke's hands were shaking. That was 3 days ago. The day before she disappeared. Play the third one, I said. The third recording was video. The timestamp showed it was from 3 days ago, the day Lucy vanished. The video was shaky, obviously recorded from inside a bag or pocket, but the audio was clear. Lucy was in a restaurant. I could hear the ambient noise dishes clattering low conversation from other tables. Then Brian's voice. Lucy, thank you for coming. I said I'd give you a chance to do the right thing, and I appreciate that. I've brought someone I want you to meet. My wife, Diana. A woman's voice, smooth and cold. So you're the girl who's been causing problems. I'm not causing problems, I'm seeking truth. Truth? Diana laughed without humor. Is that what you call blackmail? I haven't blackmailed anyone. I've simply stated facts. You threatened my husband. You threatened our livelihood. That sounds like blackmail to me. I threatened to go to the police with evidence of your crimes. There's a difference. The video shifted slightly. I could see part of a table, glasses of water, a basket of bread. Lucy, Brian said, his voice tight. Diana and I have discussed this. What you're asking is impossible. We can't just confess to crimes we didn't commit. You did commit them. You can't prove anything, Diana said. A few coincidences, some creative interpretations of financial records. No prosecutor would touch it. I have James Parker's accident report. I have witness statements from your victims. You have nothing, Diana interrupted. And you're going to walk away from this. Now. Or you'll regret it. Are you threatening me? I heard movement. The video showed a hand, Brian's hand, reaching for Lucy's arm. We're not threatening you. We're protecting ourselves. Then Diana's voice sharp. Danny, we have a problem. Footsteps. Heavy. Fast. Lucy's voice suddenly frightened. What are you doing? Let go of me. The sound of a struggle. The video went chaotic, spinning views of ceiling floor table. Brian, don't hurt her. Be careful. Diana, get her to the car. East Washington property. Basement storage. Keep her there until we finish with Campbell. More struggling. Lucy's voice. You can't do this. People know where I am. Danny's voice gruff. Not anymore, they don't. The video went black. The audio cut out. The file ended. I couldn't breathe. I just watched my daughter being kidnapped. Luke stood up abruptly, knocking his chair back. We have to go to the police. Right now. This is evidence. Wait, Trish said. There's one more file. The text document. Luke sat back down, his whole body trembling with rage. I clicked on the text file. The document opened. Lucy's words filled the screen. If you're reading this, something has gone wrong. I knew meeting Brian and Diana was dangerous, but I had to try. I had to give them one chance to do the right thing. I've taken precautions. 3 copies of all my evidence have been sent to Detective Lisa Reynolds, Madison Police Department, Carol Jensen, Private Investigator, Stella Morrison, 412, Johnson Street, Madison, Wisconsin, Mom. I've never met you, but I've thought about you every day since I learned I was adopted. I've wondered what you look like, sound like, whether you think of me, whether you know I exist. By the time you read this, you'll know the truth. You'll know I didn't die. That Brian lied. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. I'm sorry for all the pain this will cause. But I need you to know I love you. I've always loved you. Even when I didn't know your name, I felt your absence. I felt like part of me was missing. I have a twin brother, Luke. I want to meet him so badly. I want to know if we're alike, if we think the same way, if there's really such a thing as twin connection. If Brian and Diana have hurt me, if I'm not around to see this through, please don't let them win. Please protect Howard Campbell and anyone else they might hurt. Please make sure James Parker's death isn't forgotten. And please tell Luke I'm sorry we didn't get to meet. Tell him I felt him somehow. Felt like I had a brother, even when I didn't know for sure. I'm going to hide this card in Mr. Button's My Stuffed Bear. The Parkers gave him to me when I was 5. He's been with me through everything. If you found this, it means you understand. It means you're looking for me. I'm not giving up. And I hope you won't either. All my love. Lucy, by the time I finished reading, I was sobbing so hard I could barely see the screen. Luke was crying too, his head in his hands. Trish put her arms around both of us. We're going to save her, she said fiercely. You hear me? We're going to bring Lucy home. That night, Luke's connection with Lucy grew stronger. I found him in the guest room at Trish's house. We decided to stay there, work from there until the gala. He was lying on the bed, eyes closed, breathing slowly. Luke, she knows Mom. His eyes opened. They were red from crying, but there was wonder in them too. Lucy knows we found her message. She knows we're coming. How can you tell? I just feel it. The fear is less now. She's not giving up. She's waiting for us. He sat up. And I'm seeing more, clearer images. Tell me. The room is small, maybe 8 by 10 feet. Concrete walls, concrete floor. There's a cot with a thin blanket, a bucket in the corner. His face twisted with anger and pain. They're treating her like an animal. What else? High window. I can see a bit of sky she watches. It tracks the time by the light. There's a door, heavy steel. She hears footsteps sometimes. Someone brings food and water twice a day. Doesn't speak to her. Can you tell where she is? Any specific details? Luke's face scrunched in concentration. The pipes I mentioned before, they're loud. Water rushing through them. And the traffic, it's constant during the day. Fades at night, but never stops completely. Highway for sure. He opened his eyes. East Washington Warehouse. It has to be. It matches everything. 24 hours, I said. Tomorrow night at the gala, we make them admit where she is. Then the police go in immediately. What if they don't admit it? They will. We'll make sure of it. Luke grabbed my hand. Mom, what if we're wrong? What if she's not at the warehouse? What if she's there? You know she is. Your connection to her is real, Luke. I believe that. He nodded, but I could see the fear in his eyes. Fear that we'd be too late. Fear that Lucy had been so close for so long. Same city, same campus, and we'd never known. After we get her back, Luke said quietly, I want to tell her everything. About growing up, about you, about our life. I want her to know she was always part of our family, even when we didn't know it. We'll tell her together, I promised. Monday morning, Trish had another meeting scheduled with Diana, but this time it was at Harrington Financial Advisory, Brian and Diana's office in downtown Madison, and this time I was going with her. Are you sure about this? Luke asked for the 100th time. He was monitoring from the car again, listening through the wire. I need to see him, I said. I need to look Brian in the eye before tomorrow night. I'd changed my appearance as much as possible. My long brown hair was pinned up in a tight bun. I wore glasses I didn't need, borrowed from Trish. A professional suit that made me look like a lawyer instead of a furniture maker. I looked nothing like the young woman Brian had married 30 years ago. Would he recognize me anyway? We'd spent 8 years together, had a child together, made vows, made lies. "Just be careful," Luke said. "Don't give anything away." "I won't," but my hands were shaking as Trish and I walked into the office building on Capitol Square. Harrington Financial Advisory was on the 3rd floor. Tasteful, expensive, everything designed to project success and trustworthiness. The receptionist, a young woman in her 20s, smiled warmly. "Good morning. You must be Ms. Anderson. Mr. Sheffield is expecting you." Mr. Sheffield. Brian's fake name. "Thank you," Trish said smoothly. "This is my attorney, Ms. Morrison." I'd kept my real last name after the divorce, but Morrison was common enough. No reason for Brian to connect it to me. We were led to a conference room, large windows overlooking the Capitol building, mahogany table, leather chairs. And then he walked in. Brian Morrison, my ex-husband, the father of my children, the man who'd sold our daughter and lied about it for 22 years. He looked older. His hair was gray now, receding slightly, lines around his eyes and mouth. But he still carried himself with that same confidence, that same charm. Behind him came a blonde woman in a red dress, Diana Harrington. Pretty in a manufactured way, too much makeup, too perfect hair. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Ms. Anderson, so wonderful to finally meet you properly." Brian shook Trish's hand. His voice was smooth, practiced. "Sarah has told me so much about you." Sarah, Diana's fake name. "And this is," he turned to me, "my attorney, Ms. Morrison. She advises me on all major financial decisions." Brian extended his hand. I had no choice but to take it. His grip was firm, professional. He looked at me with polite interest and absolutely no recognition. 22 years, 2 children, a marriage, and he didn't know me. "A pleasure, Ms. Morrison. It's always good to see clients who seek proper legal counsel." He gestured to the chairs. "Please sit. Can we get you coffee, water?" "We're fine," Trish said. As we sat, I studied Brian's face, looked for any sign of the man I'd once loved, the man who'd held my hand through labor, who'd promised to protect our family. I saw nothing, just a smooth, empty mask. Diana sat beside him, perfect posture, perfect smile. "Ms. Anderson, Brian has reviewed your financial situation based on the information I provided. He has some excellent strategies for maximizing your assets while minimizing risk." "I'm listening," Trish said. Brian pulled out a presentation folder. Everything looked professional, official, completely legitimate. "Based on your current assets, approximately 5 million in liquid capital, I'd recommend a diversified portfolio. Some low-risk bonds, some growth stocks, and a substantial position in what I call emerging opportunities." "Emerging opportunities?" I asked. My first words to Brian in 22 years. He turned to me, still no recognition. "International investments, currency exchanges, certain developing markets that show significant growth potential. Offshore accounts, in other words," I said flatly. Brian's smile tightened slightly. "Well-established international investments, perfectly legal and highly lucrative." "For whom?" "For my clients, of course." Diana leaned forward. "Ms. Morrison, I understand your caution, but Brian has an exceptional track record. I myself have seen returns of over 15% annually since we began working together." "How convenient," I said, "since you're married to him." The temperature in the room dropped. "Ms. Morrison," Brian said, his voice cooling, "if you have concerns about my business practices, I'd be happy to provide references. I have many satisfied clients." "I'm sure you do, until their money disappears into those emerging opportunities and they discover it's gone." Trish put her hand on my arm. A warning. We were supposed to be playing along, not confronting them. Not yet, but being in the same room as Brian, watching him perform this act, knowing what he'd done to Lucy, to me, to our family, it was taking every ounce of self-control not to scream at him. "I apologize for my attorney's directness," Trish said smoothly. "She's simply doing her job protecting my interests." "Of course," Diana said, but her eyes had hardened. "We appreciate thorough due diligence." Brian closed the presentation folder. "Perhaps this isn't the right fit. We only work with clients who trust us completely. Trust is the foundation of any successful financial relationship. I understand, Trish said, which is why I'd like to think about this carefully. Perhaps we could discuss it further tomorrow night at your gala. Brian and Diana exchanged a glance. Certainly, Brian said. The gala is about charity, not business, but we can certainly talk. As we stood to leave, I couldn't help myself. I pulled out my phone, pretended to check a message, then said casually, "By the way, Mr. Sheffield, did you ever have children?" Brian froze, just for a second, but I saw it. "No," he said carefully. "No children. Why do you ask? Just curious. You seem like you'd have been a good father." His jaw tightened. "Thank you, but it wasn't in the cards for us." Diana stood, putting her hand on Brian's arm possessively. "We're quite content with just each other." "How nice," he said. "Some people have children and don't even know it. Or they know and pretend not to. Life is strange that way." The silence that followed was deafening. "We should go," Trish said quickly. "Thank you for your time." We left before they could respond. In the car, Luke was frantic. "Mom, what were you thinking? You almost blew the whole thing." "I know, I'm sorry, I gripped the steering wheel. I looked at him, and all I could see was Lucy in that basement. All I could think was that he put her there. "We'll make him pay," Trish said. "Tomorrow night, in front of everyone." My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, Ms. Morrison. "This is Brian Sheffield. I don't know what game you're playing, but I suggest you stop. Some doors should stay closed. A threat." He'd figured out who I was. I showed the text to Trish and Luke. "Good," Luke said, his voice hard. "Let him be scared. Tomorrow night we destroy him." Tuesday morning dawned cold and clear. The day of the gala. The day we'd bring everything into the light. We gathered in Trish's back room one final time to review the plan. Detective Reynolds was there too. We'd given her all of Lucy's recordings, all of Carol's evidence, everything. She'd obtained a warrant for the East Washington warehouse, but she'd agreed to wait. "We hit the warehouse the moment they confess," Reynolds said. "The moment we have confirmation Lucy is there, my team goes in. But Mrs. Morrison, if this doesn't work..." "It will work," I said. "If it doesn't, we move to Plan B. Arrest them on what we have, hope it's enough." Luke pulled up his laptop. "Here's the tech setup. The gala venue, Monona Terrace, has a full AV system. I've hacked into it. We can override their presentation at any time and play Lucy's videos on the main screens." "Perfect," Trish said. She was already dressed for the gala, a stunning emerald dress that made her look like old money. Exactly the kind of person Brian and Diana would want to impress. I wore a simple black dress. Elegant but understated. My hair was down, no glasses. I wanted Brian to see me clearly this time. Wanted him to know exactly who was destroying him. "The plan," Reynolds said, reviewing her notes. "Ms. Sullivan arrives as invited guest, Patricia Anderson. Mrs. Morrison arrives as her legal counsel. We have 20 officers positioned throughout the venue, some as servers, some as guests, some as security. All exits are covered." "At some point during the evening," I said, "we confront them, publicly, with witnesses and cameras everywhere they can't escape. We play the recordings," Luke added. "Lucy's voice, Lucy's evidence, everything." "They'll panic," Trish said. "And when people panic, they make mistakes. They'll either confess where Lucy is," I finished, "or they'll say something that confirms it. Either way, we get what we need." Reynolds nodded. "And the moment we have that confirmation, my team extracts Lucy from the warehouse while we arrest Brian and Diana at the gala." It was a good plan, a solid plan, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something could still go wrong. That afternoon, Luke had another vision, stronger than before. I found him in his room, sitting on the bed, tears streaming down his face. "She's scared, Mom. More scared than before." "Did something change?" "Someone came to her cell this morning. Not the usual person who brings food. Someone else. Danny, I think the enforcer. He told her..." Luke's voice broke. "He told her that after tonight, after they finish their business, she won't be a problem anymore." My blood ran cold. "They're going to kill her. Tonight, after the gala. That's their plan. Then we can't wait. We have to..." "No," Luke grabbed my hand. "If we move too soon, if we tip them off, they'll call Danny. Tell him to finish it early. We have to stick to the plan, Mom. We have to let them think they're winning right up until the moment we take them down." He was right. I knew he was right. But every maternal instinct in my body was screaming to go to that warehouse right now, to break down the door and pull my daughter to safety. "Lucy knows," Luke said quietly. "She knows we're coming. She's hanging on Mom. She's fighting, but we have to hurry." I pulled my son close. 6 hours. In 6 hours, we bring your sister home." As evening approached, I stood in front of the mirror, barely recognizing myself. The woman looking back at me was a stranger, elegant, composed, ready for battle. But inside, I was terrified. What if Brian and Diana didn't break? What if they were too smart, too practiced at lying? What if we'd put all our faith in this one moment and it wasn't enough? "You ready, honey?" Trish appeared in the doorway, looking like $1 million. "No," I admitted, "but I'm doing it anyway." She came and stood beside me. Two women in their 50s about to take on a pair of con artists in front of Madison's elite. "Remember when we were 26 and working at that awful diner on University Avenue?" Trish said. "You were pregnant with Luke and Stella determined to save enough money to start your furniture business. I was dating Robert, dreaming about opening a pub." "I remember. We didn't have anything back then except each other and our dreams. But we made it. We built lives, built businesses, survived loss and heartbreak, and everything life threw at us." She turned to me. "Tonight we're going to save your daughter, and we're going to make sure Brian Morrison pays for every lie, every theft, every life he's destroyed. You believe that?" "I believe it." "Good, because Lucy's counting on us, and we don't let our family down." At 6:30 p.m., Luke drove us to Monona Terrace. The Frank Lloyd Wright building glowed against the darkening sky, beautiful and imposing. Inside, 200 guests mingled beneath crystal chandeliers. Champagne flowed. A string quartet played softly. Everything looked perfect. But underneath the surface, a trap was being set. I saw Detective Reynolds across the room, dressed as a guest, her eyes scanning the crowd. I spotted 3 more officers I recognized from the briefing, 1 serving champagne, 2 posing as a married couple. And then I saw them. Brian and Diana holding court near the windows overlooking Lake Monona. They looked confident, successful, completely in control. They had no idea their world was about to end. Trish squeezed my hand. "Showtime." We walked across the ballroom. Every step felt like walking through water. My heart hammered so hard I was sure everyone could hear it. Brian saw us coming. His smile faltered when he recognized me without the disguise. Diana's eyes narrowed. "Ms. Anderson," Brian said carefully. "So glad you could make it." "I wouldn't miss it," Trish said. "Your wife promised this would be an evening to remember." "I'm certain it will be," Diana said. Her voice was tight. I stepped forward. "Hello, Brian, or should I call you Mr. Sheffield? I can never remember which name you're using these days." The guests around us started to notice. Conversations quieted. "Mrs. Morrison," Brian said, his voice low and warning. "This isn't the time or place." "Oh, I disagree. I think this is exactly the time and place." I raised my voice slightly. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the interruption, but there's something you should know about your host tonight." Diana moved toward me. "Security." "Is already here," Detective Reynolds said, appearing at my side and flashing her badge. "Everyone stay calm." The ballroom went silent. I looked at Brian, at the man who'd destroyed my family, at the father who'd sold his own daughter. 22 years ago, I said, my voice carrying across the sudden silence. "You told me our daughter died at birth. You let me mourn her. You let me believe I'd lost her forever." Brian's face went white. "But she didn't die, did she, Brian? You gave her away. Sold her for $50,000, and when she found you when she came looking for her family, you couldn't let her tell the truth. So you took her. You've been holding her prisoner for 3 days. Gasps erupted around the room. "That's insane," Diana hissed. "She's delusional. I have proof," I said. "Luke now." The lights dimmed. The large screens around the ballroom meant for Brian's presentation suddenly showed Lucy's face, and then her voice filled the room. Lucy's voice filled the ballroom, amplified through speakers designed for charity speeches and donation appeals. Now they broadcast the truth. "Thank you for agreeing to meet me." Brian's voice followed. "You said you had information about my family." "Yes, about your daughter, about me. My name is Lucy Parker." I watched Brian's face as 200 guests listened to him admit he was Lucy's father. Watched the color drain from his cheeks as Lucy accused him of selling her for $50,000. Diana lunged toward the AV booth, but 2 police officers stepped in her path. "Let the recording play," Detective Reynolds said calmly. The first recording ended. The second one began Lucy confronting Brian about his fraud operation about James Parker's death. Around us, guests were pulling out their phones, filming, recording. This would be all over social media within minutes. Howard Campbell stood near the bar, his face ashen, as he heard Diana and Brian discuss him as their next target. "Turn it off," Diana hissed. "Turn it off right now." "Why?" I asked. "Afraid people will hear the truth." The third recording began, the video. Lucy's shaky footage from inside her bag as she met Brian and Diana 3 days ago. The ballroom watched in horrified silence as Diana ordered Danny to take Lucy to East Washington property, basement storage. As Lucy's voice cried out, "You can't do this, let go of me." As the video went dark, when the screens went black, the silence was deafening. Then everyone started talking at once. "Oh my God, did they just call the police?" "The police are already here," Reynolds said loudly. "Everyone, please remain calm." I stepped forward directly in front of Brian. He stood frozen, his carefully constructed mask completely shattered. "Where is she?" My voice didn't shake. Not anymore. "Where is my daughter?" This is all..." Brian couldn't form words. Diana grabbed his arm. "Don't say anything. We need lawyers. Lawyers won't help you now," Trish said. 200 witnesses just heard you confess to kidnapping. The recording could be edited, doctored, Diana tried. Luke appeared from the AV booth holding up his phone. "Already sent to every news outlet in Wisconsin, along with all of Carol Jensen's files on your victims. You're done." Brian's leg seemed to give out. He grabbed the back of a chair. "I never wanted to hurt her," he whispered. "I just needed time to think, to figure out what to do." "You've had 22 years to think," I said. "You chose to lie. You chose to steal. And when Lucy asked for the truth, you chose to take her freedom. Where is she, Brian?" He looked at me then, really looked at me. And for the first time in 22 years, I saw recognition. Saw the man I'd once married beneath the monster he'd become. "The warehouse," he said quietly. "East Washington Avenue, number 247. She's in the basement." Detective Reynolds was already on her radio. "All units go now, East Washington 247 basement level. Possible hostile suspect Danny Price may be on site. Victim is Lucy Parker, 22-year-old female." She turned to Brian. "If anything happens to her, if your man touches one hair on her head..." "I told Danny not to hurt her," Brian said desperately. "I specifically said no harm. She's my daughter. I would never..." "You already did," I said coldly. 22 years ago, you destroyed her family. 3 days ago, you destroyed her freedom. You don't get to claim you're protecting her." Diana suddenly laughed. A high, brittle sound that made everyone turn. "You want to know why?" she said, mascara starting to streak down her perfect face. "You want to know why we took your precious daughter?" "Diana, shut up," Brian warned. "No, I'm done covering for you." She turned to the crowd, to me, to everyone. "You think you're the only one who lost a child. You think you're the only one who suffered." Her voice cracked. 17 years ago, I was pregnant. Brian's baby. He promised he'd leave you Stella. Promised we'd have a family together. But then I miscarried. 7 months pregnant, and I lost our daughter. The room went still. After that, I couldn't have children. The doctor said my uterus was damaged. No more babies. Ever. Diana's eyes were wild now, years of pain spilling out. "And Brian stayed with you. Stayed with Luke, the son he chose to keep. While our daughter, the one we made together, was dead." "Diana," Brian said weakly. "That's not..." "When I found out he had another daughter," Diana continued, ignoring him. "A daughter he'd given away but kept pictures of followed through the years. I wanted him to suffer like I suffered. I wanted him to lose everything." She looked at me, and her face twisted with something between rage and anguish. "So when Lucy showed up threatening to expose us, I saw my chance. Let her take everything from him. Let her destroy his life like he destroyed mine." But Brian was weak. He wanted to protect her, wanted to fix things. She laughed again, that horrible broken sound. "So I made the decision for him. I told Danny to handle it, just like we handled James Parker." "You admitted it," Reynolds said, her recorder still running. "You just confessed to conspiracy to commit murder." Diana seemed to realize what she'd done. Her face went blank. "We need lawyers," she whispered. "What you need," I said, "is to pray that my daughter is alive and unharmed, because if she's not, no lawyer in the world will save you from what's coming." Reynolds motioned to her officers. "Brian Morrison, Diana Harrington, you're under arrest. Kidnapping conspiracy to commit fraud accessory to murder in the death of James Parker." As they put handcuffs on both of them, Brian looked at me one last time. "I'm sorry," he said. "Stella, I'm so sorry. I was young, I was stupid, I was drowning in debt. I thought I was making the best choice. You thought selling our daughter was the best choice. I thought giving her to a family who could afford 2 children was the best choice. I thought sparing you the pain of choosing between them was mercy." "You're a coward," I said, "and you've been running from the truth for 22 years. Well, you're done running now." The officers led them away. Diana went quietly, her perfect facade completely shattered. Brian kept looking back, his face crumpling with what might have been genuine remorse. I didn't care. All I cared about was Lucy. "Mom," Luke grabbed my arm. "We have to get to the warehouse." We ran. Detective Reynolds drove with sirens blaring. I sat in the passenger seat, Trish and Luke in the back. The drive to East Washington Avenue felt like it took forever and no time at all. My phone rang. Reynolds. "SWAT team is there," she said. "They're clearing the building now. No sign of Danny Price yet." "What about Lucy?" My voice broke on her name. "They're looking. Basement is larger than we thought. Multiple rooms." The warehouse came into view, surrounded by police vehicles, lights flashing blue and red against the darkness. Officers in tactical gear moved in formation. Reynolds parked and we jumped out. An officer tried to stop us. "Ma'am, you need to stay back." "That's my daughter in there," I said. He looked at Reynolds, who nodded. "Let her through. Stay behind me." We entered the warehouse. The main floor was chaos, officers shouting, flashlights sweeping dark corners. The smell hit me, oil mold abandonment. "Basement access is this way," an officer said, leading us to a door behind old shelving. The same door Luke, Trish, and I had found 2 nights ago. Now it stood open, the lock broken. We descended concrete stairs into darkness. Emergency lights had been set up, casting harsh shadows. The basement was a maze of corridors and storage rooms. "Clear, room 3, clear." My heart pounded with each negative report. Then, "I've got something, back corner northeast section." We ran. Luke was faster, his connection pulling him like a compass pointing north. He rounded a corner ahead of us and stopped dead. "Lucy," I caught up and saw it. A heavy steel door padlock cut by bolt cutters. The door stood open. Inside was a small room 8 by 10, just like Luke had described. Concrete walls and floor. A thin cot with a gray blanket. A bucket in the corner. High window letting in faint moonlight. And sitting on the cot, thin and pale but conscious, was Lucy. My daughter. She looked up as we burst in. Her eyes, my eyes, Luke's eyes went wide. Luke got there first, dropping to his knees beside her. "I'm Luke, your brother, your twin." Lucy's hand shot out, grabbing his. "I felt you," she whispered, her voice hoarse from lack of use. "These past days I felt someone looking for me. I knew I had a brother." "I felt you too," Luke said, tears streaming down his face. "The cold, the fear, the water pipes, I saw it all. I tried to find you faster. I'm so sorry." "You found me," Lucy's voice cracked. "You found me, and that's all that matters." Then she looked past Luke, looked at me. For 22 years, I'd wondered what it would be like to meet my daughter, what I would say, how it would feel. No fantasy had come close to this moment. "Mom," Lucy said, just that one word. I couldn't speak, could barely breathe. I walked forward slowly, afraid if I moved too fast, she might disappear, might turn out to be a dream. Lucy stood, her legs shaky. I caught her, and we held each other for the first time since the day she was born. She felt so real, so solid, so alive. "I'm sorry," I whispered into her hair. "I'm so sorry, I didn't know. I would have found you sooner, I would have. It wasn't your fault." Lucy pulled back to look at me, her hands gripping my arms like she was afraid I might disappear too. "I know what he did. I know he lied to you. I lost 22 years with you. Then we'll make up for it now." She smiled through tears. "I'm not going anywhere." Behind us, Trish was crying. Detective Reynolds stood in the doorway looking relieved. An EMT appeared. "Miss, we need to check you over." "I'm fine," Lucy said, but she wavered on her feet. "You're dehydrated at minimum," the EMT said gently. "Let us take you to the hospital. Your family can come with you." Lucy looked at me. "Will you stay with me?" "Every second," I promised. "I'm not leaving your side." At UW Hospital, Dr. Elizabeth Morgan, the same psychologist Luke and I had consulted about twin connections, examined Lucy. "Physically, you're stable," she said. "Dehydrated, some bruising, malnourished from 3 days of minimal food. But you'll recover. Psychologically," she paused. "That will take more time. What you experienced was traumatic." "I'll be okay," Lucy said. She was sitting up in the hospital bed looking stronger now with IV fluids running into her arm. "I'm a nursing student. I know trauma recovery takes time." Luke sat on one side of her bed, me on the other. Neither of us wanted to let her out of our sight. "The twin connection you two have is remarkable," Dr. Morgan said. "Luke, you accurately described Lucy's environment down to specific details you couldn't have known. That's extremely rare even among identical twins." "It felt like she was calling me," Luke said, still holding Lucy's hand. Lucy said quietly. "I didn't know if anyone could hear, but I kept thinking about my family, about finding my mother and brother, about not giving up." "We heard you," I said. "And we came." Dr. Morgan made notes. "You'll both benefit from counseling. The trauma Lucy experienced, the guilt Luke feels about not finding her sooner, the complicated family dynamics with Brian, all of this needs processing." "What about him?" Lucy asked. "Brian, what happens now?" "He and Diana are being charged with multiple crimes," I said. "Kidnapping, fraud, conspiracy to murder. They'll both go to prison for a long time." Lucy's expression was complicated. "Part of me hates him for what he did to you, to Mom, to us. But part of me," she looked at her hands, "part of me wonders what made him that way, how someone becomes capable of selling their own child." "That's a healthy question," Dr. Morgan said. "Understanding doesn't mean forgiving, but it can help with healing." There was a knock on the door. A nurse poked her head in. "There are some people here to see Lucy, James and Linda Parker." Lucy's face lit up. "Let them in, please." An older couple entered, both in their mid-60s, the same people I'd seen in Lucy's apartment photos. James Parker's face showed stress and relief in equal measure. Linda Parker was crying openly. "Lucy," Linda rushed to the bed, carefully hugging her. "Oh, honey, we've been so worried. When the police called and said you'd been found—" "I'm okay, Mom," Lucy said. Then she seemed to realize what she'd said and looked at me with panic. "I mean, Linda, I didn't mean—" "It's okay," I said quickly, my heart breaking and healing at the same time. "She's your mom, too. She raised you. She loved you. That doesn't change." Linda Parker looked at me with tears in her eyes. "You must be Stella, Lucy's birth mother." "Yes." We stared at each other. Two women who both loved the same girl, who both had the right to call her daughter. "Thank you," Linda said softly. "Thank you for giving her life, and thank you for finding her." "Thank you for raising her," I replied. "For loving her. For being the mother I couldn't be." James Parker stepped forward, extending his hand. "Mrs. Morrison, I wish we could have met under better circumstances. Lucy spoke about you often after she found out about the adoption. She wanted so badly to meet you." I shook his hand. "She wrote me a letter, in case something happened to her. She said she loved me even though we'd never met." "She did," Linda confirmed. "She always felt like something was missing, like she had a family out there somewhere." Lucy looked between all of us. "I don't want to choose. I have 2 families now. Is that okay?" "Can that be okay?" "Of course it can," I said firmly. "Love doesn't divide, honey. It multiplies. You have the Parkers, and you have us. You have 2 mothers, 2 fathers." "One father," Lucy corrected quietly. "James is my father. Brian is just the man who created me." James Parker's eyes filled with tears. He took Lucy's hand. "That means more to me than you know, sweetheart." Luke stood up. "I should give you all some time." "No," Lucy grabbed his hand. "Stay. You're my brother. You're part of this too." So we all stayed. Two families brought together by lies but choosing to stay together through truth. April 2025. Spring sunlight filled my workshop warm and clean through the windows. The scent of fresh-cut wood mixed with coffee from Trish's thermos. 3 workbenches now occupied the space where there had once been one. I stood behind Lucy, guiding her hands as she sanded a piece of cherry wood for a jewelry box she was making. Her movements were still a bit awkward, but improving every week. Even pressure, I reminded her. Let the grain guide you. Across the workshop, Luke looked up from his laptop, where he was coding a new security system for Trish's pub chain. She's just showing off because Aunt Trish is watching. Trish laughed from her perch on a stool by the window. She's smart, always perform better with an audience. Lucy stuck her tongue out at her brother, a gesture so perfectly normal, so wonderfully ordinary that it made my heart swell. How's the recovery going? Trish asked. She'd become a fixture in our lives, almost a third grandmother to Lucy. Good days and bad days, Lucy admitted. She'd finished her semester despite everything, determined not to let Brian and Diana steal more of her life than they already had. Still have nightmares sometimes, about the basement. I squeezed her shoulder. Dr. Morgan says healing isn't a straight line. I know, and therapy helps. Lucy set down her sandpaper. Actually, I've been thinking about something. Luke closed his laptop, giving her his full attention. After I finish my nursing degree, I want to specialize in trauma recovery. Help people who've been through what I went through. Kidnapping survivors, people who've escaped abusive situations. That's beautiful, honey, I said. And I want to start a scholarship fund. In James's name, my dad, James Parker. The real James Parker Memorial Fund, not the fake one Brian and Diana used. Her voice strengthened. For students who've been through foster care or adoption who want to go into health care. James would have loved that, Linda Parker said from the doorway. We hadn't heard her arrive, but she often dropped by on her visits to Madison. She and her husband had moved to a condo 20 minutes away, wanting to be close to Lucy, but respecting her space. Lucy jumped up to hug her. You're here? I thought you weren't coming until tomorrow. Couldn't wait. Besides, your father is at the hardware store with Luke's measurements for the new shelving. Linda looked around the workshop with approval. This is becoming quite the family business. Morrison and Morrison, Luke said with a grin. Custom furniture and trauma recovery scholarship funds. And Parker, Lucy added. Morrison Parker. I'm keeping both names. I felt tears prick my eyes. That's perfect. Trish checked her phone. Speaking of Parker, the trial verdict just came in. We all froze. Brian Morrison guilty on all counts, 25 years. Diana Harrington guilty on all counts, 20 years. Trish looked up. They're done, both of them. Lucy was quiet for a moment. Then good, they can't hurt anyone else now. Howard Campbell sent you something, I said, pulling an envelope from my desk. He wanted you to have this. Lucy opened it. Inside was a check for $100,000 made out to the James Parker Memorial Scholarship Fund. Oh my God, she whispered. A note was attached. Thank you for saving my life and my future. This is just the beginning. Howard Campbell, 8 victims, Trish said. All of them got their money back from the seized offshore accounts, and all 8 are contributing to the scholarship fund. That's over $800,000, Luke calculated. It's a legacy, I said. Your father's legacy, Lucy, and yours too. That evening after everyone had left, I found Lucy and Luke sitting on the workshop floor, surrounded by sawdust and sketches for furniture designs. You know what's weird? Luke said. We're twins. We shared a womb. We should have grown up together, shared everything. Instead, we grew up hundreds of miles apart, not even knowing the other existed. But we found each other anyway, Lucy said. That twin connection, you felt it was real. It brought you to me. Do you still feel it? I asked, sitting down beside them. They looked at each other and smiled. Every day, Luke said. Sometimes I know Lucy's having a bad day before she texts me. And sometimes I wake up thinking about one of Luke's dreams, Lucy added. It's like we're making up for lost time even in our sleep. I put my arms around both of them. I know I can't get back the 22 years I lost, can't give you a shared childhood, can't undo the separation. But you can give us now, Lucy said, and that's enough. Is it really? She turned to face me. Mom, I had a wonderful childhood. The Parkers loved me, raised me, gave me everything they could. I'm grateful for that life. But there was always a piece missing, the wondering about where I came from, who my birth family was. And now you know, Luke added. Now we all know, and we get to build something new together. Besides, Lucy said with a slight smile, I get 2 mothers who both love me. How many people can say that? A week later, I sat down at my computer to write. Not a business plan or a furniture design, but a story. Lucy's story. Our family's story. Sitting here in my workshop, surrounded by the laughter of my children and the scent of fresh-cut wood, I often think about the 22 years I lost. 22 years of believing a lie. 22 years of mourning a daughter who was alive growing up without knowing her mother or her twin brother. But I also think about what those years taught me. Don't be like I was. Don't let silence steal your truth. When Brian told me our daughter had died, I accepted it because I trusted him. I never questioned. I never investigated. I carried that grief alone, never knowing I had the right to demand proof, to seek answers. If I could go back, I would ask the hard questions. I would insist on seeing documentation. I would trust my instincts that something felt wrong. But I can't go back. None of us can. All we can do is move forward with the lessons we've learned. Here's what I want you to know. First question, what doesn't feel right? If something in your gut says this isn't true, listen to that feeling. Don't let fear or trust or exhaustion stop you from seeking answers. Second, fight for the people you love. When I found out Lucy was alive and in danger, I didn't hesitate. I used every resource, every skill, every connection I had to find her. That's what family does. Third, understand that family is complicated. Lucy has 2 mothers now, me and Linda Parker. She has 2 fathers, her memory of James Parker and her biological connection to Brian, though she chooses not to claim him. That complexity doesn't make her less loved. It makes her more loved. Fourth, healing takes time. 6 months after Lucy's rescue, we're still in therapy. Still working through trauma, guilt, anger, grief. That's okay. Recovery isn't a race. Finally know that it's never too late. I found my daughter after 22 years. 22 years of believing she was dead. And we still built a relationship. Still became a family. If this story moved you, I want you to think about your own life. Are there questions you've been afraid to ask? Truths you've been avoiding? People you've been meaning to reach out to? Don't wait. Don't let years pass while you tell yourself, someday might never come. My daughter Lucy almost died in that basement. If we'd been one day slower, one decision worse, I might have lost her again, this time permanently. But we weren't too late. We found her. We saved her. And now we're building the family we should have had all along. That's the gift of truth. It might hurt. It might be complicated, but it sets you free. I saved the document and looked around my workshop. Luke was installing the new shelving he'd designed. Lucy was finishing her jewelry box tongue between her teeth in concentration. Trish was reading the newspaper, her reading glasses sliding down her nose. My family. Complicated pieced together from loss and lies and 22 years of separation. But family nonetheless. Mom, Lucy looked up. You okay? I'm perfect, I said, and meant it. The James Parker Memorial Scholarship Fund awarded its first scholarships 1 year after Lucy's rescue. 6 students, all from foster care or adoption, all pursuing careers in healthcare, received full tuition for 4 years. Lucy gave the speech at the award ceremony held at UW-Madison. My father, James Parker, believed in truth, she said, standing at the podium with confidence. When I wanted to know where I came from, he helped me search, even though it was dangerous, even though it cost him his life. She paused, composed. But because of his courage, I found my family. I found my mother, Stella, my brother, Luke. I found the truth about my past. And now through this scholarship, we're helping other people find their truth too. Truth about their identities, their families, their futures. From the audience, I watched her with pride. Beside me sat Linda and James. Wait, no. James was gone. It was just Linda now. But she held my hand, both of us mothers, to this incredible young woman. On my other side, Luke beamed at his sister. The twin connection that had saved her life was still strong. They texted constantly, had dinner together twice a week, finished each other's sentences in that way that made everyone else laugh. After the ceremony, we all went to dinner at Trish's pub. The back room was set up for a private celebration. To Lucy, Trish raised her glass, who survived the unthinkable and turned it into something beautiful. To James Parker, Lucy added, who taught me that seeking truth is always worth the risk. To family, I said, However it's formed, however complicated, however hard-won. We clinked glasses. Later, as we were leaving, Lucy pulled me aside. "Mom, I've been thinking. About day. Your workshop is getting crowded with 3 workbenches, and I'm going to graduate soon, start working as a trauma nurse. I won't have as much time for furniture making." My heart sank. "You want to stop coming?" "No, the opposite. I want to expand. What if we opened a real workshop, Morrison Parker Custom Furniture? We could hire other people, teach them the craft, maybe even employ people recovering from trauma, give them something constructive to focus on." I stared at my daughter. That's brilliant. And we could have an attached space for trauma support groups. Somewhere people could work with their hands while they heal. Wood therapy, I'm calling it. "Wood therapy," I repeated, smiling. "I love it." "So you'll do it. We'll build it together." I pulled her into a hug. "Honey, I'll build anything with you. We've got 22 years to make up for." "Then let's get started." As I write this, sitting in my workshop, surrounded by sawdust and memories and hope, I want to leave you with one final thought. Life will lie to you sometimes. People you trust will betray you. You will lose years to misunderstandings and deceptions and the cruelty of circumstances beyond your control. But truth has a way of surfacing. Love has a way of enduring. And family, real family, has a way of finding each other. I lost my daughter for 22 years. But I found her again. And in finding her, I found a strength I didn't know I had, a capacity for forgiveness I didn't know I possessed, and a future I never imagined. Don't give up on truth. Don't give up on love. Don't give up on the possibility that broken things can be mended, that lost things can be found, that 22 years of darkness can end with dawn. My name is Stella Morrison. I'm 57 years old. I'm a furniture maker, a mother of twins, and a grandmother-to-be. Lucy just told me she's engaged to a wonderful young doctor she met during her nursing clinicals. And I'm here to tell you it's never too late for truth, never too late for family, never too late for love.